the legends of memory and storage. Crucial brings you the ultimate performance in gaming. Legendary products. Precision engineered. For speed and stability. Crucial ballistics.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with the AMD Ryzen and Windows 11 presents the Esports Club Challenger Series powered by Crucial. It's going to be your boy Aggressive with CCB by my side. And after a pretty long, grueling set of qualifiers, we are now here with our top 8 teams. We are now here with the best of the region has to offer. And with that, we're going to be going on down over to the group reveals. We know you're all excited to see exactly who's going to be facing who, and all of these teams, they had a very rough journey throughout this entire tournament. And honestly speaking, the grind is just going to increase even more because now with the LAN right around the corner, it's not even 2 weeks away at this point.
Just
Everyone's going to get ready. It's just 2 weeks away.
I'm really excited for the LAN. It is going to be amazing. Again, we have the 8 best teams in the region right now. They'll be split into 2 groups of 4 teams each. And over the course of the next 4 days, they'll be battling against each other. So let's have a look at the 8 best teams currently in South Asian Valorant. We start off from the top left. We have Anadi Army, the team that arguably had the toughest journey out of them all. These guys, they played in the first qualifiers, lost. They played in the second qualifiers, came third and fourth, played in the wildcards, and only then could they manage.
A close one.
Yeah, and it was very, very close indeed. And only then could they manage to take a spot. Next to them, Velocity. Everyone in the region knows them. Most people outside of South Asia as well know Velocity. They were one of the 3 invited teams into the group stages, so they haven't played any matches just yet, but they will be. And I'm pretty sure everyone has high expectations from their side. Reckoning and Revenant, 2 teams, who also had to fight their way through qualifiers. Arguably, very, very strong teams, but against, their groups, wherever they're paired up, it is still going to be quite difficult of a journey for them. And then, of course, we have a bottom set of 4 teams as well.
Yeah. Orangutan coming in. The first time we're going to see Orangutan in official Esports Club tournament. So that's going to be an even bigger one. Esports, pretty much the first team that qualified. Not really a surprise. Lethal, being one of the first teams that qualified with medal. Not really that much of a surprise. Both of these teams are cracked out of their minds. You expected them to qualify through. And of course, our last and final team was Enigma. They were invited out of the big 3. And hey, the big 3, they're always going to have that massive fan base behind them who's going to be like, yeah, they're going to win. They're going to be the top 3. The grand finals are going to be maybe Velocity Orangutan. It could be Enigma Orangutan or Orangutan Enigma. Anything along those lines could happen. But when we're talking about a couple of these underdogs, though, the top 4 is where things get a lot more interesting. Each and every one of the other teams, they have something to prove here, and they've showcased such proficiency in the way that they're evolving, the way that they're switching up their strategies as well. It's just insane to me how much the team has changed, how much the teams have evolved over time. And I do believe that Revenant, they're the ones in contention with Lethal to be the ones to take it all away and possibly take down a couple of these top dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, the group stages as well, right? You are splitting these 8 teams into 2 groups of 4. Out of those 2 groups, the top 2 teams will be moving on forward. So there is still that chance. I mean, if I'm one of the underdog teams, say I put myself in the shoes of Medal or Lethal, it's definitely not like I'll be facing off against Velocity, Orangutan, and Enigma in my group. I mean, of course, we'll talk about the groups later on, but that's very, very highly unlikely. So there is still that chance for these teams to, move on forward and take one of those spots in the LAN. And of course, in the LAN, they'll showcase themselves on an equal footing in front of a huge audience as well. But for now, we talk about the performances these lads and all of these teams have given in the online phase, and still what's to come from their side when we head on forward with the group stages tomorrow onwards for the next 4 days continuous. So we start off Medal Esports. These guys as well, they almost had one of the best journeys in the first qualifiers. They went all the way towards the quarterfinals. They met up against Lethal Esports, and the match, that one single best of three, even though Medal lost, they won the hearts of so many players that were out there, because on the map of Bind, the first map of that best of three, they had to play a 4 versus 5. The Sage right now, God Bexy, back then he was on the Sky. He had unfortunately disconnected after round two. So Medal Esports in a 4 versus 5, they were down 3-9, but they made a brilliant comeback. It was essentially one of the best maps you have seen in South Asian Valorant. Fox, as the breach was popping off, everyone got those kills, and then they ended up winning map of Bind, but Lethal eventually took out that best of three. Lethal won 13-8 on Ascent and 13-11 on Fracture, just shy of overtime. So again, a couple of rounds here and there, and Medal could have already surmounted their victory over Lethal and went on into the group stages from qualifier 1. But no, these guys, they went to the second qualifiers, they fought their way, and very well deserved. Having a look at the statistics as well, they went and secured that position amongst the top 8.
The most surprising run has to be Medal. We
Mhm.
always consider this team to be the first one out in a lot of cases because the team, yeah, they have incredible amounts of talent. Honestly, in my eyes, Tricky has to be the best duelist player that we have seen out of any team, even one of the
Yeah.
top, because the way that Tricky plays, it's very difficult to shut him down. His movement is pristine. He's so unpredictable, and his sheer levels of aggression, the man has no fear, and his confidence is just driving him forward in a lot of different scenarios. And when you have something like that on your roster, he can spearhead his team into a site and allow them to play in the most comfortable way possible. And with the addition of Fox, honestly, CCV, tell me, before Fox came in as the sub for this team, it looked a little bit lackluster, but as soon as Fox joined, the
True.
initiator, the backbone of the squad, helping Ezzy out to carry out his duties as that sentinel player as well on the sidelines while being an initiator, it's not an easy feat. And Fox, he's making it look simple. He's making it look as though he's been doing this one for years.
Absolutely. He is really comfortable with that initiating role. And every single time, he will find a way to let his teammates get the entry. Many a times, he takes that role of the pseudo duelist as well. I mean, it's not like we
Yeah,
haven't
that's
seen
true.
plenty of kills from Fox. I mean, if you're already looking at, and comparing the kills, Fox right now has the highest amount of kills amongst all his fellow teammates so far from what we have seen in Medal from these qualifier stages. And that's a statement. Having the highest amount of kills, having a pretty high average combat score as well, almost counting, competing and countering against Tricky, means that he is putting in so much of the effort, not just with the utility, but with the guns as well. So he is an exceptional addition to this roster. And now we move on forward to the next roster that's taken place in the top 8. We just talked about how
First
Medal
one.
Esports had lost to Lethal in the first qualifiers and then could not secure a spot. Well, here's Lethal for you. These guys already, they only had to play one qualifiers. They also had a pretty standard and a very good journey for their side, I have to say, because they didn't have too much in front of them except for that one best of three against Medal Esports. We saw Lethal, play the first map of Pearl ever in South Asian Valorant against F7 Esports. It was a 13-2 win for their side. They went on and in a best of three, they defeated the likes of QQQ as well.
Yep.
Then they met up against Medal. That's where they had a little bit of difficulty, but they overcome that obstacle and they secured a spot. And these players, once more, Lethal have tons of prowess with them. We have seen these players in the boot camp. We know that their synergy needs just a little bit of improvement, but once it's got that, then definitely they can have that spark of brilliance. And definitely, with the sheer experience all 5 of these guys carry, they can secure a spot in the LAN.
It's guaranteed. The team in question that we have for the top four, at least, from the underdogs, I would say Lethal has the biggest probability of going on through. But when you're
Yeah.
talking about a team that has gone through in qualifiers one, we always have a tendency of saying that, oh, they're just a better team. That's why they got through qualifiers one, but not exactly. That's not really true. Whenever you go through qualifiers one, yeah, it shows that you have a lot of potency and a lot of prowess on that particular matchup. You're able to save a lot of your strategies, build up new strategies, observe teams as well. We're fighting through qualifiers too, and then the wild card stage, so you can build up your strats. But you're also not playing in a tournament setting for the longest period of time during that
Yep.
moment. It's a massive gap. It's been what, almost a 1 month-ish gap now that we are here on the group stages. So Lethal, they've been sitting on the wayside, hopefully not collecting dust, because I'm really afraid this team has so much talent, has so much potential, and just as you highlighted, their team play and synergy still requires some work, and there's no way you can gain that not just by playing scrims alone. You need to be in a tournament
Yeah.
setting. You need to feel that pressure. You need to feel that heat, and hopefully, Lethal, they've felt that throughout the entirety of that one best of three that they played, but they need more. They need to gain this experience. So, Lethal, even though they are much more favored to take the win, I'm going to put a little bit of a question mark on their side. Will this team be able to move forward in the proper way? Because if they get overconfident, they could just be tripping and falling face first into the ground.
That's the thing. Every single team, they won't have tons of matches, to play. I mean,
Exactly.
every single group, they'll only have like three other competitors against them. So for Lethal, whoever they're facing off against, it's just three different teams. So they got to make sure they make the best out of that situation. I'm not going to call the group stages like do or die every single map. No, of course not. There's a little bit of wiggle room. It's not single elimination. You win, you move forward, you lose, you go home. But there is a lot at stake here. Aggressive, we have talked tons and tons about the 15 lakh prize pool we have to offer as well, and only the top 3 teams will be getting a chunk out of that. So not only do you need to get into the LAN, you also need to be in the top 3, which is why Lethal will have to put in a lot of work. But another amazing contenders to move on forward into the LAN stages from the underdogs, from the teams who weren't invited, from the qualifiers, is the other team who qualified from qualifier number 1 alongside Lethal Esports. It's going to be none other than the winners of the esports of the last esports club community cup that we'd held, Revenant Esports. And every single time it's Revenant, the main thing is, and the thing I love about Revenant is that whenever we bring these 5 players up on screen, I am very sure everyone in the audience is looking at the names of every single player that's there, because every single player in RNT puts in so much work through their own ways, that they have their own fan following, that they have their own favorites selected as well. There's no star player. Everyone is a star here. It's a constellation that's built in RNT.
Yeah, that's for certain. The team just meshes together so beautifully, and that is what you would
Mhm.
love to see. Sheer level of talent that each and every player have. Their paradox for pretty much the breakneck entries. Knight Rider, who has shifted away from the entry role over towards the chamber to support Paradox and become that operator, freeing up Paradox to do a lot more Wimp with his IGL calls and of course his clutches. I nicknamed him the clutch minister of our region, and he's been able to consistently get clutches throughout
Yeah.
every single series that he has been in. And Wimp, he pulls off miracles, man. If you have this man on your team, you can guarantee he's gonna clutch out at least 3 to 4 rounds for your team to make a comeback happen. Logista, I don't even want to talk about this guy because he's a criminal and he deserves to be put behind bars, but somehow he still runs away from everything. And then we have Blackhawk, guaranteed to be one of the best controllers our region has to offer. He plays in the most unconventional way possible, but he makes it look as though he's playing the biggest brain game that we've ever seen.
The flanks every single time. And yeah, if you're an audience member, you're looking at these statistics, you're like, wait a minute, when we saw Middle East was those guys had kills in the 116s. What's here? Why are you hyping Revenant up? If these players only have like 30 kills to their name, well, that's because these kills are calculated only by the qualifier performances of all these players. Medal, they played in the first qualifiers, they played in the second qualifiers, they've played a lot more best of threes than Revenant have. Same goes for Lethal Esports. Revenant so far have only played, I mean, if you don't count the initial best ones that you play, the round of 128s, the 64s, 32s, and all that, they played their I'm so sorry. They played the best of three against Anadi Army, but that was also a curb storm victory for Revenant. 13-6 on Haven, 13-2 on Bind. They went on forward into the quarterfinals against True Rippers, but as we all know, unfortunately for True Rippers, they could not compete in the qualifiers. They had to forfeit because of the player issues and the substitutes and all that. So Revenant technically have only played one major best of three that's counted, and that's why their statistics are towards the low end, but definitely doesn't mean their caliber isn't. They are one of the top dogs, just like our next team, which is going to be Reckoning Esports. Now, Reckoning, they
And this
also have
part
a
was
bone to pick.
not expected. You know that
Yeah.
as well.
Hmm.
Reckoning caught us all off guard. Initially, when we saw Reckoning, Reckoning just didn't feel like a team that could compete. They were making a couple of mistakes here and there. Their early runs, let's say back when they were in the round of 32s, round of 16s, it just felt a little bit iffy. But as soon as they shifted towards the round of eight and then the quarters, then the semis, I honestly was not expecting the performances that they were putting up. Bad Love come in clutch. Deadly just being an absolute Chad. He just started swinging corners and didn't give a damn. And then Hirsch, man. You have to give credit where credit is due. Hirsch pulled off one of the best multi kills that we have seen throughout this entire tournament.
Battle Sage for a region, for a reason. Sorry, for not
Yeah,
a
for a
region.
region as well.
I
He's
mean,
one to
yeah, fair
remember.
enough. Fair enough. Yeah, Reckoning Esports, I've given the title of like Mr. Consistent to someone like Pixels as well, because Reckoning, yeah, they've had their ups and downs. They did lose to True Rippers in the first qualifiers, but it was again a very, very close loss. Like it could have really gone either way. 13-8, then they won 13-11, they lost 9-13. It went back and forth and back and forth. Eventually, yes, True Rippers did manage to secure a win. Reckoning came back very strong footed. They improved themselves in the second qualifiers, and that improvement was seen. The fact that they were able to defeat Chilcord in one of, again, another very curb stompish kind of win, with, Icebox going 13-2 in favor of RGE, Ascent going 13-6. That was also very, very unexpected. They defeated Anadi Army as well, although that match was a lot more closer, one of them going into overtime as well, 15-13. It still means that Reckoning have gone through that path of improvement, and the little time that they had, after they qualified in the group stages while the wildcards were going on. Of course, today as well, I'm sure the players must be improving a lot in their boot camp. They must be going over all that's been happening and how exactly they can focus on themselves, and they can fight out the group draws and the group stages and whoever they'll be competing against. So, yeah, pressure on Reckoning. They definitely have a little bit more to prove to everyone. But even if they don't qualify for the LAN, if they just have an amazing performance or a potential upset victory over some of the top dogs that we have competing right here, I'm talking about VLT, OG, Enigma. If Reckoning can manage something along the lines of that, even if they don't get the land, they'll definitely be winning a lot of the hearts, and they'll get the validation that Reckoning always needs. After all the roster changes that have happened, the roster has been sticking together for quite some time, yet it's not just there along the lines of, say, Revenant, say, Lethal, just a little bit more, and Reckoning very well could be at that spot.
It needs some time, but again, how much more time could you even ask for? You've been doing
Yeah.
this for almost what, the past 4 months, 6 months almost, with this exact same team. Hirsch's addition has been a pretty big one. He's been so consistent. He's been mixing up very well with the squad, but Reckoning, they're going to be in that stage. They're going to need more time. And hopefully, as we go down over into the group stages, they will evolve. But
Oh,
now it's one of the
oh,
biggest Cinderella stories that we have ever seen.
yep.
The match against Grim Esports, after that, I counted Anani Army out. The performances that they had on that best of three really just left the sour taste in my mouth because of how they were performing. But as
Mm-hmm.
soon as that match was over, as soon as we headed on down over into the quarters, the semis, the finals, the wild card event, Anani Army, they had a Cinderella story coming into play now. From rags to riches, they won a lot of hearts. But again, this team, they had an upwards climb. They did not have an easy going. And whenever a team has such an upwards climb, you know that the team has evolved, the team has improved, and the mentality shifts, and you mature a lot more as well by going through such hardships. So Anadi Army, in my eyes, has to be one of the teams to take that top 4 position because of the sheer amount of games they have to play.
Truly. I mean, we said this before when we were talking about the top 8 teams, and before we started diving deeper into the teams and talking about them in detail. But Anari Army, there's not been any other team who's had more of a treacherous, lengthier journey than these guys in front of our screens. And the amount of times they've been in the do or die position, it's so much. I definitely reaches in the double digits. I need both my hands to count the amount of times AA have faced that brink of loss, and they've lost multiple times. Qualifier 1, qualifier 2, almost in the wild cards as well. But every single time they picked themselves up, dusted themselves off, and got back up and kept on running, kept on moving forward. And that's the sheer amount of dedication that will 110% be necessary against the top dogs of the region. Because, yeah, from a rational perspective, and this is something that, I mean, it's not my opinion, like I said, it's a rational perspective, they will get beaten by some or the other team in the group stages. Anyone that's competing. They've already lost to Revenant, and they've had a couple of losses to other teams as well. You'll have VLT, you'll have OG, you'll have Enigma. It's about how Anari Army will make that comeback. If they lose their first match, can they again make that comeback as they have in the first qualifier, the second qualifier, and the wildcards? Can they still get that land spot? For these guys, if they do manage a land spot, it is going to be so much more difficult. But then on the opposite side of the spectrum, aggressive, we have one of the teams who have already probably secured that land position. It is going to be Velocity. Now, of course, no statistics for these guys just yet because they've been one of the invited teams to the group stages. We'll see these guys performing at the group stages tomorrow onwards once the schedule is out, once we see who they'll be competing against. But look at their achievement. Look at the amount of ones that they have. They have more ones than, I mean, any of my mark sheets, really, because those are zeros.
Your mark sheet. Okay, I feel sad for you. Good God, that I can feel that one. But again, when you look at their past achievements, I don't think our graphics
Exactly.
designers even had an opportunity to fit all of them in. It would be tiny symbols with you trying to squint your eyes to read them. That's how much
Mm-hmm.
Velocity have already won, and they've also won the hearts of the community. This team pretty much guarantees a spot in the top 4, but again, they cannot get overconfident. A lot of these underdog teams, they've been evolving, they have been improving, and they're constantly moving themselves forward even further. But Velocity, they've also evolved, they've also adapted, and I'm excited to see exactly how they will play. I haven't casted a Velocity game in the longest time. And if the team is now back, fired up, and ready to take on the entire world, hey, they need to start small. This is where it
Yeah.
all begins for them, and the LAN is
Mm-hmm.
their next big stage.
Absolutely. LAN is going to be the next big stage as well. And also so many old rivalries. I mean, if you're having a look at their past achievements, I think the Amazon Great Indian Festival Championship we had here, the Esports Club, in the grand finals, they met off against Enigma. They ended up defeating them. I personally was there for the EPS that took place as well, all the way back in like December last year. Even then, they fought off against Enigma. That best of 5 was really something. Enigma had almost made a comeback from being down 0 to 2, 2 to 2, but then Velocity managed to win the decider map. Unfortunately, I'm forgetting which map it was. 3 and 2, it was the win. We have seen them play against, many other teams. Gauntlet victories, Challenger, the previous Challenger series, yeah, again was won by Velocity Gaming. But so I'm mentioning the Enigma rivalry they have, their previous players as well. Vibhor currently being in Orangutan, Marzel being in Lethal as well. There are bound to be many rivalries. VLT will be off. So when you are one of the top teams in the region, you do carry that hit marker over your head that everyone is looking to take you down. And for Velocity, they better be prepared. No matter who they face off against, they will come under heavy fire. But again, it's the sheer nature of their team. They've been fighting off against top dogs and underdogs ever since this team got formulated. Throughout all of their changes, they've been on forward. But where we have,
This
the
is what I'm
likes
really
of
excited for.
Velocity. Yeah, where we have the likes of Velocity who've been out there for time and time. Now we have this not very new, but recently formed roster of Orangutan who have really been making waves in South Asia.
I'm excited for this team because I haven't seen the person play yet. And they have signed Ember, what, maybe a week ago as well? Orangutan,
Mhm.
is possibly one of the most hyped roster throughout the entire community. They have not set themselves in the base just yet, but everyone is itching to watch this squad and see exactly what they can be capable of. They have so many big names: Tesseract, Vibor, Aduka, Shooter, and
Now
of course Ember.
Ember.
We know who Ember is. Ember is
Yeah.
possibly one of the best controllers that we have seen that can rival even Blackhawk in a lot of different cases. The way that he plays controller is very different. He's much more on the control-based playstyle. He is a very reliable anchor, and when you have that on the basis of a controller, he's almost untouchable. But again, Shooter, man, we've sung his praise how often at this stage? We know what
Uh,
he can do.
I mean,
It's
all
just
the way back
insanity.
from, yeah, so many of the previous teams as well. Every single time he was on stage, it used to be something different. So we just need to see him. And we need to see this new orangutan roster as well. We've, yeah, currently, past achievement, it's only been one tournament that they've played in. So now they've had, again, more time at the drawing board, more time to get together, talk within themselves. And of course, the new addition of Ember, it's going to lead to a couple more changes, in their dynamic nature of playstyle as well. They will have to move around bits and pieces. They will have to yet again cross their T's and dot their I's before they're ready to get back up and running. But you don't doubt them. And why would you not doubt these guys again? Because look at the experience that's on board. Look at just how well these players individually are. All they have to figure out is how to perform together as one core unit. And then they will be unstoppable. They will really be another amazing contenders later on for the LAN, potentially securing a spot in the grand finals and going off against, well, again, doesn't matter which team they go off against. The spotlight will 100% be on Orangutan because, Aggressive, keep in mind all the other big name teams that are invited, the invited teams, VLT, Enigma, both of those rosters, both of the organizations have been in South Asian Valorant for such a long time. We know them, but Orangutan, new right here, changes. Spotlight will be shown, but right now, not only the spotlight, the sun shines on Enigma Gaming because just how loved they are by the entire community. Enigma, every single time we see them, it's entertaining, just like, well, the Instagram page as well. Every single time you go there, you'll always have a laugh, 100%. But their past achievements as well, there's always been that repertoire with Enigma that, okay, yeah, in the El Clasico of South Asian Valorant, Enigma have been that close third. They've never been able to, defeat the top dogs, but that's been disproven many a times. All Enigma
That's
really
true.
need now is a big, big win. Many instances we've seen Enigma, take wins against VLT, against Global, against many of those. I mean, yeah, again, those are the top two teams in the region. But now, with a LAN event on board, if Enigma take the win of the Challenger series, they will definitely have so much more respect than they already have. I mean, every single player loves them, every single person in the audience loves them, but now they'll respect them even further, even more, if they can have this upset win.
It's insanity how much Enigma have improved.
Mm-hmm.
When you saw this roster, maybe this roster was formed maybe back in, if I remember properly, November or December. We initially thought that the roster is not going to be able to stick together like that for long. That was back in the time Hika was joining in, Excali was still
Yeah,
not on the team just yet,
the
and
Phoenix
we
plays.
yeah, we honestly thought that maybe this roster is just not gonna happen. It's not gonna go through properly. But boy, we
Mm-hmm.
were proven wrong. As analysts, sometimes we have a prediction, but this was that one time the players are like, sit down and let us show you exactly what we can do. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was more than happy to see this
Indeed.
roster succeed because this
Mm-hmm.
team has proven to us over and over again what hard work and dedication can do in comparison to talent. No, I'm not saying that these players are not talented. They are cracked out of their mind, but the way they play together as a team is what surprises us the most. To take out teams like Velocity, GE, it's not an easy feat because they're very established tier one teams that have always been there at the top side. And then Enigma forming this roster, coming together as a unit, Raw Fuel just being one of the best duelists in our entire region, if not the best. And when he has these type of players to back him up, Antidote with his support and his controller playstyle, Rexy with his incredible clutches as a Sova, RBK with his beautiful Nutty Sheriff shots, and
Headshots. Oh.
Excali to make that space. It's just, you gotta love it when you see it.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Man, everyone in Enigma, yet again, this is why I say they're loved. Like, if there's any one team that's really loved by the entire community, it's got to be Enigma. Even if you are diehard, any other team supporter, doesn't matter. I mean, even if you love Anadi Army, you still have that respect for Enigma. You still have that love for all of these players just because of, yeah, the overall nature that these guys have, the repertoire that they've built, and everything, the whole atmosphere, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, they have built around their team. You gotta love Enigma. If you don't, well, what are you doing? But with all that being said and done, that closes out all the 8 teams that we have. Now it's time for the reveal. The groups have been
Really?
decided. Once again, we talk about the format. Top 8 teams in South Asia, they will be divided into 2 groups of 4. Out of those 4 teams per group, the top 2 will be moving on forward, will be securing a spot in the LAN event that we have, the Esports Club Arena, taking place on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of November in Bangalore, South India. Again, go down in the description. Free
It's
tickets to the event for all 3 of the days. You can be there. You can meet all of your favorite players as well. Whichever teams they'll be going to the LAN, you can meet your favorite players. You can meet your favorite content creators and so much more. But I know everyone is looking forward to it. So, Gracef, without any further ado, let's have the reveal. Let's see exactly what the top 8 teams in the divided format are going to be looking like. Say, drum roll the okay. I don't even think my
no,
mic
no,
picked
no,
it
no, 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 no,
up.
no, 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 no. When I do it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't make the noises at least. But hey, Group A and Group A have already been decided. Middle Esports, Revenant, Orangutan, and Ani Army on Group A, and Group B. Okay. Well, you got what you wanted at least.
Oof. This is something. Hmm. Wow. All right. So, yeah, I think everyone needs like a solid 5 to 10 seconds to completely take in all the division of the groups and to work their brains, because again the top 2 teams will be moving on forward. They again, everyone will be churning their minds thinking that exactly who will be the top 2 teams from either one of these groups. But yeah, medal against Revenant, Orangutan, and Anari Army. So AA definitely now have a bone to pick against the side of Revenant Esports. They lost to them in the first qualifiers. Revenant want to be in the top spot. OG for their side, they have some big names competing against them. They'll also have these underdog teams in the form of AA and, of course, Medal Esports, who are making the name for themselves. But Group A is the proving grounds. Group A is where you're like the top 2. They will be there based on true grit of their unit and the true strength of their core roster as well, and of course with all of their just communication and team synergy will be a major factor for the Group A. But Group B, aggressive, this is looking really something.
I am not mentally prepared for Group B, dude. Lethal,
Mhm.
Reckoning, Enigma, and Velocity. Now that's a lot of rivalry all in one place. Lethal versus Reckoning is something that's been going on for a pretty long time. Reckoning have always been shut down by Lethal. And remember what we were talking about, Enigma taking down Velocity and possibly
Yep.
being able to take the number 1 position away from them? Again and again, they've
Mhm.
proven themselves capable of doing so. And this is just another opportunity for them. You have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, back at home, that the top 2 teams from each group will be selected for the LAN. So even if a team does lose, if they take that second position, regardless of whatever happens, they will qualify, but the seeding will change accordingly. Now, Group B, Group of Death guaranteed. Group A, a bit easier on that regard because a lot of the teams are underdogs from their end. In Orangutan, even though they have not really played a lot of different tournaments, they don't have a set play style that we can comment on, and we don't know how this team has been meshing together. We're expecting them to perform just because of the names that they do have. But Revenant, Metal, and Arani Army, they've fought through thick and thin to be here. They played multiple different matches. They played through almost sheer hell to get to this point, and
Yeah.
they're out here to make sure they head over to.
Oh, this is really going to be exciting. Group B as well. Yeah, you've got Lethal Esports, you've got Enigma, Velocity, and Reckoning to close it out. Then Group A, Medal, RNT, Orangutan, Anari Army. Yeah, that's the thing about Group A is that, well, again, if you play the best Valorant you can in your entire life for all 4 of these teams, almost everyone has that slight chance of moving forward. Of course, they are going to be the favorites in the forms of Revenant and Orangutan, no doubt about it, because of again, the sheer caliber of these players. But Medal and AA, they cannot count themselves out. And tomorrow onwards, for the next 4 days of matches that we'll have, it's going to be a whole lot more intense. It's going to be so much more, just exciting to the death kind of Valorant that we will be seeing. I am really excited for it. Of course, more information about the group stages, the timings of the matches, the format, and everything is going to be posted on all our social media here, the Esports Club, our Instagram, our Twitter. Make sure to follow us there. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed as well, because again, now it's your favorite players competing against each other for the final time in the online format before the LANs will begin. You do not want to miss this out. Same, if you're watching us on Loco, make sure you are following this channel so you do not miss out whenever the next match goes live. Whichever match it is, I am very certain now it is going to be a banger. No matter what group, no matter which teams are playing against each other, it is going to be a whole lot of fun. So definitely, you gotta make sure that you're following this. And overall, in general, I mean, yeah, with the LAN coming up, there's just so much in the LAN. We'll have our community cup as well. Again, if you bring a group of 5 friends, if you're all there together in place in venue registrations, you can sign yourself up for the Valorant community cup that we'll be having. 150,000 prize pool to offer. It is going to be really, really interesting. You can play there, you can play in front of, again, so many people amongst that entire venue. Take a shot at that amateur cup, because it's really for up and coming players and it's for amateurs as well, and people who just want to have fun. Meanwhile, also with plenty of cash on the line. But of course, we'll have the finals of our Challenger series, the top 4 teams. We'll have cosplay competitions with a total prize pool of 150,000 every single day. Other categories of cosplay. We'll have community cups for FIFA, for Mortal Kombat, and a whole lot more. Did I already mention you'll get to meet your favorite players? Again, that's the best way.
Celebrities as well. We're not gonna reveal exactly who it is. Apparently, Universe has all the scoops on that. He's not gonna say anything. That's why he's not here, because he knows for a fact that everyone's just gonna bombard him with questions. He made a run for it over on the other end. But honestly, get yourself those tickets. Get yourself a train ticket if you have to. Get over to Bangalore right here and right now, because you don't want to miss out on any of that action. The arena is where all the fun is at. And hey, this is the biggest event that India is ever going to see for the gaming industry. You don't want to miss it.
Oh, 100%. It is really going to be amazing. So, yeah, gotta say, this closes out the group reveal as well. Top 8 teams, they've been divided into, 2 groups of 4. They'll be battling it out tomorrow onwards, fighting for the land spot, fighting for a prize pool of 15 lakh rupees. Definitely stay tuned. In the meanwhile, us right here will be taking leave. We'll see you guys tomorrow. In the meanwhile, yeah, definitely do go in the description. Also get yourself some laptops powered by AMD Ryzen mobile processors. Really top of the line stuff when it comes to gaming, when it comes to workload. Those processors can handle anything and everything under the sun you throw at them. If you still want your system to be the most optimized for your games, for your workload, Windows 11 definitely is going to be the best operating system for you. Make sure you have it installed. And if you want that operating system to load as fast as possible, it has to be the NVMe SSDs from the side of Crucial. Really breakneck speeds that they provide. But we have provided you with the group draws. You better ready yourself up for tomorrow, for all the matches. Right now, it's me, CSV, alongside Aggressive. We'll be taking a leave. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Till then, take care and bye-bye.
the legends of memory and storage. Crucial brings you the ultimate performance in gaming. Legendary products. Precision engineered. For speed and stability. Crucial Ballistics.